I suggest watching the whole video before beginning. It is a 3-hour plus process to do so. Use a practice bag first, proceed at your own risk. You'll need patent leather dye, standard leather dye, a lot of acetone-based alcohol, cotton pads, some cream to condition your bag and make it shine at the end, a heated blow dryer, a magic sponge without any chemicals, a bunch of Q-tips, and paintbrush. Cut some squares from your basic magic sponge. You're going to scrub with alcohol soaked onto it to remove the original color from your bag. This is a very, very intensive, long-term project. You'll know when you've gotten all of the color off when the alcohol, the acetone, turns your bag a very, very dark gray when it's wet. If it dries quickly and still looks like the color of your bag, you need to scrub even harder. I have sped this video up something like 5 times the regular speed. However, it took me probably an hour and a half just to remove the sections that I did. So please be sure to pay attention to what you're doing. And again, I can't stress enough, practice on a bag you don't care about in case you screw it up and ruin a bag you care about. Being that this is a long drawn-out process, I want to also acknowledge that in December 2022, I was certified through an intensive program by Hyper Bag Spa Studio out of Thailand. I have an official certification as a professional, however, I'm still learning. I offer these videos to you to guide you in some of the methods that I'm learning. And just because I like to go back and watch what I've done to see what I've done wrong. Please pay attention though. I do suggest checking out the Hyper Bag Spa. The head instructor, Petita, is an absolute doll. I had such a blast. I took the pro course, which is actually 4 different days in a row of 7-hour days on a Zoom meeting. And we go through everything related to handbag restoration for a professional level. Definitely check them out. The bags I'm using I purchased at discount rates. In particular, one I'm working on had yellow discoloration all over it, so I've chosen, instead of working on the yellow discoloration, to use it as a recoloring bag. As you can see, you need a lot of elbow grease with this. And that's why I'm also, time-wise, only doing this in chunks. Once you're completed, the bag does need to sit for about 4 or 5 days to completely dry before you do anything further with it. So keep that in mind when you choose how much of the bag you're going to work on. Some additional items I forgot to mention in the beginning are you're going to need an extreme amount of cotton pad squares, a cotton cloth to wipe the bag dry in between steps. And the blow drying process is actually in, I believe, 4 different phases, so be prepared for loud and to be holding the blow dryer a ton. At this point, I'm more or less done with removing the top coat of the bag. That means the color that was originally there. Now we're going to spend a good amount of time completely blow drying it. You'll note that it'll dry a different color, so make sure you feel it with your fingers and verify that it's dry before you begin the next step. As mentioned, we'll be blow drying a couple different times. I do suggest multiple sets of gloves be on hand. The dye we will be using does not come out of skin very fast at all. You'll see I rip my gloves at some point in the video. I might suggest even wearing double sets if you don't have strong gloves on hand. Eventually you're going to want a face mask to protect you from the dust that the magic sponge creates when it's used dry at the end, so be sure to have that and be in a a well aerated room when you're working on this. So as you can see, I'm just blow drying and blow drying. You want to use a high setting with heat. As we wrap up round one with blow drying, you'll note that one side of the bag that's not removed of color will be very shiny still, while the other is very matte. That means you did it right. Now we need the patent leather color. It'll be an alcohol-free based dye. You're going to want a container with a lid in case you use too much. Be very careful it splatters. Pour a good amount on, and then you're going to use cotton pads folded. Soak a good amount in, but not too much that you drip on everything, and begin rubbing in round circular motions all over everything you need to change the color of. This is again another lengthy process. You're going to want to use things like Q-tips and a paintbrush to get into the inner seams, as you can see here. Otherwise, you're going to have a bag that is easily noticed as being recolored. Obviously, as a seller, you want to disclose this information. However, you don't want them to visibly know that it's been color changed because it just looks unprofessional. So get in all the nooks and crannies really well. Circular motions. If your paint gets dry, you can use a tiny bit of water on the sponge. In this case, I didn't do that, but you don't want it soaked by any means. It's just to rehydrate the dye. So as you can see, again, I'm going to go through and do all the seams, all the creaks and crevices of the bag. And as you get more proficient, as I hope to, this will go a heck of a lot quicker than it did for me today. However, I can say that from the time I did the front lid to now, I'm already improving. So I hope that with time and practice, you improve too and find this to be as fun as I do. So once you're done with all your paint and you've gotten all the seams and nooks and crannies, you're going to cover up your paint so it doesn't dry out. Turn your heat setting up on high, air pressure high, and blow dry it until it is completely and thoroughly dried again. My apologies for leaving the camera window a bit. It's kind of difficult to move this particular bag around. However, the idea is there, so hopefully it's helpful anyway. So we're just going to really spend a good time waving back and forth with the air, don't burn it, and then we're going to go through with our next set of paint. I was just touching up something on the edge there that was wrong, so I touched it up before continuing, but you're going to blow dry it. You're going to get a new container once it's fully dry. Pour in the standard leather color. It's usually a dye or a paint. Again, you're going to want a lidded jar in case you use too much. You're going to then apply just like before, but using a sponge, basic makeup sponge you can get at any CVS, pharmacy, or chain store. I did forget to mention that too, sorry. Everything will be in the description. But then you're going to, in a stippling motion, which is just lift up and down, up and down, up and down really quickly, back and forth in a horizontal motion, so that you're balancing the paint out evenly over the edge in a kind of textured motion, but that fills all the cracks and crevices of the leather surface. You're going to see you don't want too much. You're not caking this on, so you're going to dab it on something before applying it so that it's not too thick. You can also use the paintbrush to apply it evenly to it so that it's not clumped in certain areas on the makeup sponge. So you're getting a long process, but you're going to do this all again over everything you've previously painted with the patent leather dye. Once we've finished stippling on the second coat of paint, we're going to re-blow dry again to fully dry the entire thing. You want to make sure this is extremely dry. We're going to be more or less sanding the layer into a more smooth, less textured feeling in the next step with our non-chemicalized magic sponge. Again, please wear a mask during this process and be in a good aerated area. It creates a ton of sponge dust everywhere, but the point of it is to sand it down to a more smooth feeling, followed by we're going to then apply our cream conditioner with a horsehair makeup brush in circular motions to make it shine, followed by a chamois cloth and a buffing. So you can see I wasn't content with its dryness. So now we're putting on a mask and we're going to scrub with some serious elbow grease on top of what we just painted. And it's going to look less shiny, but it's going to feel a lot more smooth and less textured and sticky. And then we will balance that out once we're done, again with the cream conditioner, but we're going to need to get rid of all of the dust we've created, so you can blow dry quickly with cool air to get it onto the floor, and then use a makeup brush to brush it off. Be sure to get it out of the crevices and seams. It's kind of like sand. You want to make sure that it's not in there when you go to polish, or you'll be polishing grit into your fresh paint. So again, be sure to get rid of all the dust and wear a mask. So now we're going through and I'm showing you how the dust doesn't fully move with the brush. Some brushes, like the one I got, aren't very good, and it leaves the trail behind. So you're going to want to just blow dry it, then wipe the brush off on a towel so that it doesn't cake all the stuff in it, and keep brushing until it's all gone. Then you'll see I use a microfiber cloth to just quickly dust everything off. Once we're done with that, we're going to show you the cream we use. It's going to be a nourishing shine cream, essentially a conditioning polish. You're going to use an extremely tiny amount on your makeup brush, push hard and polish it into the surface in circular motions, as you can see me do. This will be the final phase, and then it needs to dry for 4 or 5 days or before you do anything further. Once you're done with your cream, you're then going to use a chamois cloth, fold it a couple times to make it kind of a thick layer, and use 3 fingers of pressure to shine back and forth and get back your beautiful shine of the outside exterior of your bag. You can use the unmessed up coloring if there's any left, like on the bottom of the bag as on mine, to gauge how much shine it would have had. And after that, you just sit and let it dry somewhere safe, not in direct sun or too much heat, but then you can start finishing the color balance on the rest of the bag in the future when you have more time. Again, this is a 3.5 hour process when all's said and done, but you can make it go a lot quicker once you've practiced. So practice, and good luck.